The evening was salty. That's both an abnormally accurate word. A cloud of ocean mist was leisurely writhing through the densely populated streets of my city, swallowing, distorting everything it decided to encapsulate. It donned a thick turquoise outer layer before possessing an almost unnoticeable attenuated inner layer, seemingly more resembling a tunnel with an imperceptible entrance rather than a cloud. Its tempo was uncanny, a pace that shifted similar to a human's with its upward motion before descending back downwards. Any attribute it enthralled would almost force you to study it and ponder its origins. The simple fragility of its texture made it swift enough to pass your hand through, to which it would bend back along with you, similar to a piece of cotton candy. It didn't carry the qualities to be hazardous, otherwise emergency evacuations would have been implemented as precautions. But that didn't necessarily mean people weren't avoiding it. The action of diverting one's path when making contact with it was almost instinctual. Traffic had manifested along the narrow confines of every avenue. Wildlife that inhabited the forest beyond the road and domesticated animals that had been sanctioned to maunder expelled reactions of prudence against it. It also opposed my direction. Since I'd been implemented for the graveyard shift, the route that guided home had been occluded via the mist, which impeded my journey there. Although it was vexing to be denied an immediate path to my house, it wasn't merely as obstructing to me rather than others, mainly since it was a scarce find to have another person that had their circadian rhythm reversed. My current position was with a friend of mine, who was also a co-worker along with me, at a ceaseless and unclosing bakery deep in the intricacies of our conurbation. We'd been stowed along a decaying and veiled street that was the most prompt esplanade for the voyage to the more tranquil fringes. Although she was opposed to the idea of lingering where we were, evidently paranoid of inebriated or narcotized individuals that would present danger. "Are we really this stupid?" she complained. "It's probably harmless if nothing's happened yet." I shrugged nonchalantly. "If no one's going through it, then I guess we gotta wait. Besides, I agree with you. Only thing I fear is that this street isn't exactly safe, especially when you can't see. That's my only concern with it." She seethed and glowered my way. "That's why I'd prefer to go as quickly as possible, idiot." "Do you just want to eat something at the bakery until it's gone?" I ignored her insult. "We have security there since, we're the only bakery open right now." Her face creased into annoyance. "Hey jackass, our path there from here is even worse than going into this. I'm not going anywhere unless it's that way." I raised an eyebrow while indicating in front of me. "No one's stopping you." "I'm not going into it alone. That's asking for a death wish." She eyed around us in apprehensiveness. "Can we just go, please?" "No." "So we're just gonna sit here, and hopefully we just spontaneously appear back home?" "My God, stop complaining, Maeve, please. If you're obviously too paranoid to just go through the mist by yourself and would rather be here, then you're fine, right? Look." I gestured at the boulevard, congested via abundant lanes of cars. "You see all these people in the street? A, I can promise you none of them will get out of their cars just to attack us or something along those lines. And B, if anyone's on the sidewalk that might do that, we have a full minute before they even get close." May still assumed the dour countenance, trepidatious if somebody didn't instigate any encounter, but became hushed. "Listen, even if you're opposed to it, it's nighttime. Why don't we just find somewhere, like our bakery, to sit down in, and just wait there? There is no harm in doing so. But there is harm in doing so. Come on. I seized her arms, which was a struggle to state it lightly. She wholeheartedly repudiated the gesture of pulling her along, even though her statement gave a different opinion. Okay, Maeve. My speech was hasty. Yeah, I understand you want us to move. I do. Yet you seem very hesitant to move as I'm pulling you. So, guess what? I will leave you here, and I will go back to the bakery if that's what you want. Is that what you want? I'd never interrupted my ramble to inhale, yet I was never out of breath. Is it? No. Then hurry up, please. I'm not kidding about leaving you here. I still sensed hesitation from her. Be my guest. All right. She reluctantly acceded, although was still on the edge. The manifestation of her distress was an odd complication she was experiencing, as we'd been employed at said bakery for around a year, so this route home wasn't exactly an abnormality. Out of all the paths we cruised during our time here, this one was not a particularly treacherous one. Even the statement she announced of it being a death wish to cross wasn't exactly all true. People of every age and size traverse through it on a daily basis without brooding over potential assailants. Her fear seemed to originate from whereabouts that I was apparently oblivious to, although it was understandably justified to withhold the feasibility of something that degree developing at this hour. Would it have been an insensitive inquiry to solicit an answer? Even now, approaching an intersection that was supervised by numerous cameras and a single crossing guard, she still undertook that expression. I decided against learning about why, since it would most likely cause her to focus on it. We'd only barely arrived at the cramped sidewalk before Maeve's assumption was proven correct. With no hesitation, a car that resided in the left-hand lane that was in due course to turn hit the gas and rammed with vigor into the crossing guard, arcing his now shattered spine into ungodly order. From our stance, the man seemed to expel a shout of pain, but from what I assumed was his flattened lungs, virtually no noise was available to make out. In place of it, crimson blood had gushed out of his mouth, sloshing before spilling out as if a waterfall onto the ground. Looks like I was right, Maeve uttered. Cringe-inducing efforts was what the sight of the guard. His back had been so severely deformed that his head had been debauched to where he was facing behind him. Of course, the individual in said car was not fully in the moment. Tinted windows scarcely obstructed the driver's sedated form, drooling nonchalantly down the tilted front of his car. His glazed, ashy pupils stared with no target and opened loose as if they detached from their sockets, which gave credence to him having been killed with his own mishap, or he was just blackout drunk. The second option seemed to prove itself true, as a cardboard cutout of a liquor container tumbled out onto the flooring of his car and became litter on the pavement. Partnering it was the god-awful stench of something that was potent enough to make neighboring foliage wither in response to it. That was no exaggeration, although the odor wasn't exactly normal, if that's even a proper statement to form. It reeked of rot and decay, similar to a deceased human body, sending immediate red flags towards Maeve and I. I don't think being near this scene is a good idea, I whispered. I felt my arm sting as she slugged me. You think? Hang on, though. What the hell do you mean, hang on? I mean, hang on, don't move from here. Are you insane? You literally just said we should leave. I refused to distinguish a response. What I was witnessing was alluring for some reason. As I attempted to continue analyzing the incident, my vision was seized by the car behind, which since the inception of this had been ploddingly inching near the wreckage. Its pace was constant yet unorthodox, and the driver was presenting the same facial distinctions as the one who gave rise to this situation. Hazy eyes, while drooling. Wait, he didn't crash because he's drunk? I stood in bewilderment. Do you think that really matters right now? If anything, we should be getting the hell out of here. I tugged the draping section of my jacket. We don't need to be here. What is your problem? You want to sit and stare at a car accident. Woohoo, car accident, it's so interesting. I spun around to her eye level. No, really, what is your problem? I don't want to hear that stupid ass argument that we get attacked or something like that. That won't happen. You want to actually explain why? There. She prematurely interrupted herself. Do I really need to provide a reason? I mean, I just stood next to you arguing about how paranoid I am, and you agreed to take me to the bakery. Nothing else. Yet you want to sit here and leer at a car accident. Do you realize how stupid that sounds? Do you realize how stupid you sound? I rebuked. It's a car accident that happened right next to us. Why wouldn't I look? And if you look around us, we're literally the only people who seem to notice. So, how about this? If you're gonna mock my simple reaction to this crash, then go. You don't have to be with me. Like I said. Maeve's expression shifted from irritated to becoming downright mortified. What? I seethed angrily. Hey, you might want to see why you're the only one who notices. She stammered. I swiveled around to the channels of cars that were stowed both ominously motionless and slightly moving along the narrow confines of the intersection. I couldn't wholly acknowledge what she was noticing, but it was nearly impossible to feign noticing the abnormalness of the cars. None of them were behaving typically. Front and back lights alike scintillated with crimson and amber, as each vehicle had been impacted by the succeeding one, causing a pileup that was more devastating the farther ahead you were. Tattered scraps of metal cluttered the asphalt, some piercing the fine layers of rubber that were the tires. The tempo of every car was unique. Some were practically engraving the ground with the imprint of their car with how briskly they were laying on the gas, others at the same speed of a snail. It was a mess that would have been unfeasible to rid, as now there wasn't a single space that could occupy a car safely. Now do you see what I mean? She harshly whispered. I heard her voice only faintly, as my face had been awestruck with dread. Barring the cars that hadn't had their windows tinted, every person had a look of demise, quite literally, as was precisely the same expressions the other two had worn. Maeve, something weird's happening. I felt her wintry palm clasp around my wrist. Oh wow, asshole, you think? Come on! Maeve scurried down the avenue, hands still clenched around mine as not to lose me, leading me to believe more now that there was more than met the eye to the perturbation she was expelling. We passed establishments that were strewn with stray chunks of death, others gored with petrifying corpses of deceased citizens that spewed blood along the walls and ground. Maeve. I spoke, for some odd reason feeling both my nose and throat beginning to itch. Please tell me what terribly hidden secret you think you're keeping from me. I was given no response. I could discern nothing at this point. Any attentiveness I obtained was being worn on Maeve's ever-increasing speed. Slow down, I attempted to yell. I'm not balanced enough. She heeded my concern, unlatching her fingers from around my hand. Can we pause, please? Just follow me, she called back. Although I was still unbeknownst to whatever was occurring, clues to where we were began to spring up. The gas station that hung on the intersection only a block from our bakery emerged from adjacent structures, to which she immediately darted towards after spotting it. The street was completely desolate, occupied by virtually nothing other than us, eerily silent and unnerving. She abstained from any hesitation in shattering the entrance of the convenience store partnered with the gas station. Bounding back at me, she snatched my arm and threw me into it, befalling me neatly onto my back. As for the now agape door, she lobbed herself into a shelf lined with nothing, fortifying the demolished store with an impenetrable means of entry. It quivered as she extricated her seizure on it, as if threatening to fall. Slowly, it oscillated into a place of whence she originally meant to implement it, looming over us as we plopped ourselves onto the ground. Jesus Christ, I could only manage to articulate. My fucking spine. I half laughed. Now you see why I wanted us to move? Maeve exclaimed bitterly. I was bewildered. Shut the hell up. Why don't I ask you a question first, Maeve? What is it you're so paranoid about? I know it isn't someone attacking us now. So, why don't you go ahead and tell me? We were gonna get hit. She sputtered. Getting hit by a car doesn't warrant this. I castigated, gesturing outside of the field of glass lined asymmetrically. If it's so dangerous, what is it? Don't bullshit me. Why are you even hiding it? I threw my hands up. This weird crap isn't like you. She backed up defensively. Excuses rattled around in her head, seemingly of a wheel spinning to choose a random one. She sighed. Well, I'm not really sure, to be honest. Sorry. But there's some weird thing, to put it lightly, going around in the air. I blinked. Is it the mist? What? Why would I encourage you to go into it then? I don't know, it just seemed logical. Just listen. Shut the fuck up. Well, it's a supply of our food. I jumped away from the counter that withheld brand name snacks. Not... She chortled and put her fingers to the crease between her eyes. Not that. It's the guy who brings in stuff, like corn, sugar, and other shit from the countryside a couple miles away. You know the guy, right? The one that brings in wheat and other stuff for our pastries? I attempted to recall the man she was describing. My job wasn't a supplier, which gave me little to go off of. Maybe? She shrugged. Doesn't matter. When he made the delivery today, our boss acted weird before suddenly passing out. My eyes expanded in astonishment at the sudden news. So, that happens to him, and you say nothing? Not exactly. He, said he was fine. I didn't exactly see him pass out, but I heard him hit the table. My brain did a pop shove it. And you didn't check on him? Well, he locked the door. Okay. Still doesn't explain the whole thing. I'm saying that I think it's something from him, dipshit. That's why I was acting weird. When our shift ended, I saw where he arrived from, and the same exact thing happened. In front of the entrance to the countryside, it was just cars piled up upon each other. I threw my hand up to get her to pause. Okay, that clears up why you're paranoid, and I guess why you're quick to run, since I'm gonna guess it's airborne. But it still doesn't prove how you knew explicitly that you knew it was this. Now you're giving me a headache. She severed my sentence prematurely. I know that he's the guy that caused it because of this. The guy and our boss shook hands. 30 seconds later, he's dead. There you go. Huh. So, then what's the plan? Wait for it to travel through the air and get here? No, I barricaded the door to try and block it from coming in that way. You know what? Come on, let's go. She snatched my hand for the second time, ramming into the shelf, sending it flying across the vacant gas station, before charging for the bakery.